Understanding the Human Being, Alfred Adler, and the Deep Truths of Individual Psychology. Why is the human being always chasing something? Why do we constantly feel incomplete, inadequate, yet never stop striving to fill that emptiness? These are the very questions that change the direction of psychology, posed by Alfred Adler. Adler was once a student of Freud, but he saw humanity differently. While Freud explained human behavior through instincts, Adler sought to understand it through purpose. For Freud, a person was the product of their past. For Adler, a person was oriented toward the future. This single distinction laid the foundation for what he called individual psychology. According to Adler, every human being carries within a feeling of inferiority. From the moment we are born, weak, dependent, and helpless, we are aware of our limitations. But that very sense of limitation becomes the driving force of growth. What makes us human is our effort to overcome our shortcomings. Adler called this the striving for superiority. It doesn't mean the desire to dominate others, but the inner urge to surpass oneself, to reach one's potential. A child learning to walk, a young person chasing their dreams, an adult building a better life, all of these are expressions of this inner striving. However, when this striving is misdirected, it gives birth to the inferiority complex. Instead of growing, a person begins to live only to hide their weakness. They compare themselves endlessly, trying to prove their worth again and again. Adler described this as a kind of psychological chain, a life lived not from one's own potential, but in the shadow of others. One of the central pillars of individual psychology is the belief that humans are social beings. Adler said, "No one can exist in isolation from others. The individual gains meaning only in connection with others. If someone seeks superiority by detaching from the community, they eventually fall into loneliness." True maturity, according to Adler, is the development of the social interest. Empathy, belonging, and contribution. These are the foundations of mental health. Even today, the modern emphasis on the importance of social bonds in psychology originates from Adler-AS insights. Adler also argued that every person develops a lifestyle, a pattern of thinking and behaving, formed early in childhood. It's not something we consciously choose. A child who is constantly criticized grows up needing to prove themselves. Another who is supported and trusted learns cooperation and confidence. These styles continue into adulthood, shaping our habits and relationships. We keep repeating the same emotional loops without realizing it. Thus, the goal of individual psychology is to help a person become aware of their own lifestyle. Because awareness is always the first step toward change. For Adler, no one is born broken. Behind every behavior lies a purpose. Some people choose this purpose unconsciously, while others learn to transform it consciously. A person constantly seeking attention might once have been an unseen, unheard child. Another who tries to control everyone might be masking deep insecurity. So for Adler, behavior is not a symptom, it's a message. And that message comes from the deepest human need, the need to feel valuable. Individual psychology is not just about individuals, it's about the health of society as a whole. Because Adler believed that most psychological suffering stems from the feeling of not belonging. A person who feels excluded, insignificant, or inferior either withdraws inward or becomes aggressive. In both cases, the root emotion is helplessness. Yet, human helplessness is not destiny. Adler wrote, "A person is not defined by what they are, but by what they strive to become. Our past may shape us, but our choices for the future define who we are." That is the most hopeful part of Adler's psychology. No human being is beyond change. Today, Adler's ideas continue to influence therapy, education, leadership, and personal growth. Recognizing one's own shadow, transforming inferiority into creativity, living with a sense of belonging. These are not just psychological concepts. They are a philosophy of life. Adler's most powerful message can be summed up as this: Stop pitying yourself. Contribute. Because meaning is not found in isolation, but in connection with others, with life itself. That is the essence of individual psychology. Know yourself, but don't get lost within yourself. Rise, but never by pushing others down. And always remember, true strength is born not from isolation, but from connection.